from it.
Welcome to Bellshill for today's very special service as we honour the memory of World War I Victoria Cross recipient Piper James Richardson. It is with a great sense of pride that we unveil this commemorative paving stone and pay tribute to a brave and outstanding soldier. Piper Richardson was awarded the Victoria Cross, the highest military honour awarded to armed forces personnel in the British Empire and the Commonwealth countries following his death in 1916. James Piper, the 72nd Seaforth Highlanders of Canada, was originally from Bellshill and died during the Battle of Ancre Heights, which took place over the 8th and 9th of October 1916 at the Somme in France. Piper Richardson obtained permission to play the company over the top in this most deadly of battles, and his skill with the bagpipes inspired his company to capture an enemy position. Later, James was detailed to take back a wounded comrade and some prisoners, but after proceeding some distance, he insisted on turning back to recover his pipes, which he had left behind. He was never seen again. The Piper's remains were found in 1920, and he was burned at the Andernach military ceremony in France. In recognition of his bravery and valour, James Richardson was awarded the Victoria Cross. In August 2013, the UK government announced a campaign to remember Victoria Cross recipients from the First World War. As part of this, commemorative paving stones have been laid in the birthplace of recipients to provide a lasting legacy within communities. Some of James's relatives are here today with us, and I'd like to thank them for allowing us to be part of this occasion as we remember his bravery in the service of his country.
At first glance, the Victoria Cross does not appear to be a particularly impressive decoration. Uniformly dark brown in colour, matte in finish, with a plain crimson ribbon, it pales in comparison to more colourful honours and awards in the British or Canadian honours systems. Yet to reach such a conclusion would be unfortunate. Part of the esteem, even reverence, with which the Victoria Cross is held is due to its simplicity and the idea that a supreme, often fatal, act of gallantry does not require a complicated or flamboyant insignia. A simple, strong, and understated design pays greater tribute. Piper James Cleland Richardson earned his Victoria Cross in the presence of the enemy, where he displayed most conspicuous bravery and devotion to duty. On 8 October 1916, the 16th Infantry Battalion, Canadian Expeditionary Force, was attacking a German position called Regina Trench during the latter stages of the Battle of the Somme in France. When Piper Richardson's company was held up in front of the enemy trench by uncut barbed wire and intense gunfire, he strode back and forth, calmly playing his bagpipes. Inspired by his example, his company assaulted the barbed wire, made their way through it, and captured the German position.
They shall grow not old as they that have left growth. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn.
At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Fallen for us during war, with their names upon a statue, we will remember forevermore.
Piper Richardson was born across the street here from the memorial at the police station, where his father, my great-grandfather, was a police inspector for the Lanarkshire Police Force. In the family of 8, I think 4 of the family was actually born right at the police station here in the apartments where they lived for a time before moving to the Borders area. They immigrated to Canada in 1912, just after the Titanic went down, I guess, and eventually settled in the Chilliwack area of British Columbia, where my great-grandfather took the position of Chief of Police in Chilliwack. Quickly joined a pipe band in the C4th Highlanders out in Vancouver, and when the First World War broke out, the C4th Highlanders joined up with a couple other regiments to become the 16th Canadian Scottish Battalion, and they made their way back to France. So he only spent 8 months or so in Canada before coming back. But I guess emigrating to Canada at that time, he got his citizenship right away, and he joined the Canadian Army rather than the British Army. So he came back and went through the normal training regiment that all the soldiers did, and ended up going to France February of 1915. So he ended up fighting through France for over a full year before he ended up getting into the Regina Trench and doing what he did to be awarded the Victoria Cross. I'm amazed at how inspiring he was, you know, with the stuff that he did during the war, because pipers in the war did not actually pipe the troops onto the battlefield because they were sitting ducks. You know, they didn't have a gun or anything. They were sitting ducks, and the commanding officers didn't want to put them out there and have easy targets for the enemy. So Piper Richardson, for the most part, he was stretcher bearers. He was working behind the lines in quartermaster stores and stuff like that. And then when they went from one battle site to another, he was playing his music then, or on parade routes, or promotion parades. He was doing his music then. But pipers, for the most part, on the battlefield did not play the bagpipes because they were targets. So the famous saying that you see in the newspapers and on the internet and all that, of him giving permission to give him wind, is inspiring to me, because pipers didn't play the bagpipes on the battlefield. So when he begged and pleaded to play them, he was actually asking his commanding officer to get up in front of open fire and trying to inspire the troops to get up and overtake the wire. After Piper Richardson's act of bravery, he left the bagpipes near the trench, whatever, and he was detailed to take prisoners and wounded back behind the lines. So after he completed that, he wanted, like, he's a piper in the war, so what is he going to do? Well, he needed to go back and pick up his bagpipes. And he asked permission to go back to the trench to pick them up. He was told not to. And then, but he went anyway. You know, he's a bagpiper. He had nothing else to do. So that's what happened. He went back to the trench, and I don't know. Nobody knows whether or not he got back to the trench. He actually picked up the bagpipes and got shot on the way back, or he got shot on the way there. Nobody really knows. But he never came back. So he died somewhere along that way. As a family, we thought the bagpipes were lost, like nobody knew of them or whatever. And it wasn't until 2003, there was a fella in Creeth, Scotland. Well, actually, before that, there's a padre that fought in the British Army that actually went through the battle sites and helped clean the areas up and everything. Picked up these bagpipes and brought them back, kept them with him through the war. And then after the war, he went back to teaching school in Crieff, Scotland. And he didn't know what to do with these bagpipes, so he put them in a display case in the school, and that's where they stayed. And the only thing that was in with the bagpipes was a little note saying where he picked them up on what date. So, and there they stayed for about close to 80 years. Because they were just in with a bunch of other war stuff, you know. So, and it wasn't until this fella, Mr. Thomas Christie, who was a parent of one of the children in the school, started looking at these bagpipes, and he didn't recognize the tartan on the bag. And so he started asking questions and doing inquiries, and found out that the tartan didn't come from Scotland. And so with the internet, he put it out like as an inquiry, who can identify this tartan and all this kind of thing. So it was the regiment back in Victoria, British Columbia, that picked up on it and said that was our, that's our tartan. So they sent a guy from Victoria back to identify and make sure that was theirs and all that, and from the tartan itself, and then there's distinctive markings on the chanter of the bagpipes itself that trace it back to Richardson. And so that was in 2003, and then it took 3 years to repatriate them back to Canada. So they're on permanent display in Victoria right now at the provincial legislature in Victoria, and that's where they stay. Any memorial is moving, especially when you have somebody that they're trying to remember in your family. So it brings to my mind what he did and why everybody is proud of what he did. So.